I'm just going to go ahead and say this for the record. I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
Catholics obviously believe in saving yourself before marriage and respecting your body, which, like, there's nothing wrong with those things. But when it came to Catholicism, particularly in my case, where I went to private Catholic schools from the age of legit 4 years old, because I started in preschool, till my senior year of high school, it was just like all the time. And when we got to middle school and the first talk that we had, they separated us. So the boys went to go play dodgeball in the gym. And the girls were brought into this classroom to talk to our principal, who was a really cranky nun at the time. I won't disclose names. But the conversation was basically like, so our bodies are changing to become women. We're not little girls anymore. And that's the way God intended for it to be. And that women need to be more self-aware of themselves to protect our, quote, brothers of the church. Which at the time, like, I'm like, oh, that makes sense, because that was all I knew. Because when you are, like, when you grow up in this community and it's kind of small and, like, that's your whole life, like, your family is in it, your family's friends, your friends, your classmates, like, that's a bubble that you just never even think to explore outside of. So I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like, I want to make sure that I take care of myself and I'm appropriate so that the boys don't sin, because sinning for anything in all of its sense purposes was like, you can't do. So that was like the first major red flag that I noticed. Because, like, when you're a kid, you don't notice these things in the church because, again, that's like your whole world. But it really got worse in high school. Like, it really didn't get any better from there. So we never had a sex class. We had a theology of the body class, which in the Catholic Church, it's a philosophical movement and idea that they press onto young people, specifically girls, of purity and abstinence and understanding that physical pleasure needs to be connected with God and not with yourself or anybody else until you are in marriage. Whenever the girls were separated from the guys and we had talks, they would compare us to crushed flowers. So, like, the woman's body is a fresh flower. But sex is if you took it in your hand and you crushed it. And then, so when you open your hand back up, the flower is not as pretty anymore, and you can piece it together as much as you possibly could, but it's not going to be the same, which is so fucking scientifically inaccurate when it comes to women's bodies. We were compared to shoes in the same regard, like the woman's body is a brand new shoe, but then when you use the shoe, it's not the same as it was in the beginning. But at my high school, they invited spokespeople who were leading this movement. It's called the Chastity Project for Catholics specifically. This guy named Jason Everett, you can look him up. He came to us twice. The first time, I remember him being, oh, he's so cool. He knows how to talk to young people because he's funny. And so when I first sat in his assembly at my school, he was really funny because he made jokes and stuff, and it was relatable. And again, I was really naive and didn't really know. He was extremely homophobic. He kept saying that people who are gay tend to have mental disabilities. So, like, people with ADHD, depression, anxiety, those people who tend to have those things are gay. He said that you are more likely to be gay if you have mental disabilities. and all people who are gay have mental disabilities. So it was like, not only was it wrong to be gay, but it was also wrong to admit you had mental disabilities like depression, anxiety, ADHD. Like, which I felt at the time was like, okay, maybe he's not entirely right. So, like, you don't question it, or if you do question it, you keep it to yourself. It was probably like my sophomore year of high school because I thought, like, who cares? Like, who cares that you love another? Like, who cares that a man loves another man? Who cares that a woman loves another woman? So, in junior year, that was when I was comfortable to call myself bisexual. And the only people who knew that were these kids who pretended to be my friends, particularly this girl who pretended to be my friend, because she claimed to also be bisexual. My phone had blown up with, like, Snapchat DMs, Instagram DMs, Facebook comment notification, text messages. I was just like, what the fuck is actually going on? She was very popular, so a lot of people were hitting me up and like, is this true? Are you a fag? Like, blah, blah, blah. Oh my god, you have AIDS, like, blah. And it was just, after that, it was kind of a blur because it was like a constant. At one point, I had to delete all my social media apps because it was so bad. Because again, the school is very small, word gets around really quickly. So things started to become very violent and physical with other students. Particularly, they wrecked my car while it was in the parking lot, and they wrote faggot on it. And obviously, when it comes to bullying, it comes to the point where teachers need to get involved. However, they wouldn't, which really fucking sucked. So apparently, on Snapchat, someone had posted something about me being a faggot and that they were gathering as a group to come for me. That they were coming for me. Right? That's fucking terrifying. But they added me in this Snapchat story that said that they were coming for me. Like, we're coming for you, you fucking faggot. You've ruined our senior year experience because you've decided, like, something about me taking the spotlight or something, or being an attention whore. And so it was brought to the attention to the principal at that point because that was a threat. Like, that was a physical threat. They pulled me into an office and they're like, okay, so there's a lot of serious things that are going on. And they had called my parents in, like, we're waiting for your parents to show up because it's really important and blah, blah. And I'm like, fuck, I'm so fucking screwed. I had never been more terrified until that moment. Because I'm like, they are going to tell my parents that I'm bi. That, or I'm going to have to tell them that I'm bi. Because I know that we were there for the bullying stuff. So, my parents showed up. The principal's like, so this stuff has been going on. Like, we've seen that this is really serious. I don't know what your daughter has told you, or blah, blah, blah. And so my dad asked, well, what started this whole thing? And they said, well, we think it's because your daughter thinks that she is gay. Not that your daughter is gay, that she thinks she is gay. Like, because I had no say in the matter. Because, I only think I'm gay. That's why everyone's picking on me. Cool, yeah. And so, then the disciplinarian said that, well, what we can do is fix the situation by having her talk to the school's priest When I heard that, I was like, oh, fuck, it's just gonna be another fucking Catholic class of homophobic, misogynistic shit. So they're like, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have her park in a specific place where we can watch her car more closely for vandalism. They moved my locker to the end of the hall closest to the office so they could keep an eye on it for vandalism. I was not allowed to go anywhere without some sort of supervision. Like, so if I needed to go to the bathroom in the middle of class, someone would have to come with me because they were worried about people following me into the bathrooms. For like the next week after that meeting, I was supposed to go after school to this priest's classroom because he had his own classroom because he was a certified teacher and talk to him. They were just fucking reform classes, were quote unquote reform classes, which was basically to try to preach the gayatomy. So, again, I was going through a lot of emotions of anger and hate and just wanting to kill myself at the same time to get out of this misery. Which I almost did. I almost did kill myself, but I failed because I tried to hang myself and the fan blade broke. But this priest was like, you just think that you're gay because of all the bad stuff happening to you, blah, blah, blah. Like, God is never really going to love you unless you change your ways. He asked me, on the last day that I was there, he's like, is this resonating with you at all? And I told him honestly, I'm like, no, this is stupid. I just want to go home. Apparently, that priest talked with the principal and disciplinarian, and he's like, oh, she is so far gone, like, I don't know what to do, like, she's not listening to me. And so they sent me to another priest. Like, the first day I went to see him for reform classes, for the reform talk. He was like, this is honestly really stupid. I don't see what they are trying to accomplish with this. This is making things worse for you. It's wasting my time because I have other things I need to do. So what I'm going to have you do is just show up to my classroom, sign this little piece of paper saying that you were here, and I'll give it to them as evidence. That was probably the nicest thing anyone had ever done to me in that period of my senior year of high school. But it wasn't the end, unfortunately. You know how, like, in your senior year of high school, you're supposed to get letters from your family and friends, and they give you this opportunity to write little letters to your friends and put them in your bags and blah, blah. Well, we did that. One teacher had to actually hold on to my letters from my family specifically because apparently people were going through my bag to write nasty shit and to take the nice stuff out and throw it away. I unfortunately did see a lot of the really nasty hate letters, like saying that I was inhuman, I was a faggot. There was a lot of faggot and cunt in there. That I'm disgusting, that I'm carrying AIDS, there were several that of saying people would hope that I would die, that I would kill myself, because I'm just that disgusting pig of a human being. It really didn't end until I graduated and I just fucking left. And I legit left, got out of there. Never really saw anybody again. But my faith was shattered. Like, everything that I believed in the Catholic Church was completely shattered. Because not only did I feel abandoned by the people who I was supposed to trust the most, the people who I grew up with, I felt abandoned by the authority who was supposed to help take care of me. I felt abandoned by God. Like, and so that whole summer, I just evaluated, is God real? And if he is real, he's a fucking asshole. He is. And, like, in my opinion, he's a fucking asshole. Because if he is real, he is letting these people who think that they are right hurt other people like myself and people that I know who've gone through similar experiences suffer tremendously. And yet those people who are doing quote-unquote God's work by traumatizing people like me and my friends, they're going to heaven.